Hello and welcome to this little video about what's going to happen next with your application. My name's Ellie Bradley and I'm one of the deputy heads of school who look after access and restart within SERC.
I'm Chris Mullen. Yeah, I'm Chris Mullen and I'm also one of the deputy heads of school, and my background's in science and maths, so we should be quite well covered with many of the areas that we've got to talk about.
What's going to happen next is that after this video, hopefully you'll have some idea about what the access and the restart courses entail. That'll help in your process about deciding what course it is that you think is going to be right for you. Then we'll be sending you an invitation to come for an assessment process. Please don't panic. This is not a big test. It's not an exam. Nobody is going to say that you've failed. What this is about is making sure that you've got the right seat for you inside our courses. At the assessment session, you'll be doing a little piece of work on maths, a little piece of work on English and writing, and then we're going to ask you to write a little piece about why it is that you want to do the course, what your dreams are for the course when you finish, what your goals are, what it is that you hope to do with it. That assessment will take about an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. At the end of it, we're going to ask you to pick your interview session. And then you'll come in to talk to some of the team about how the assessment went and what it is that we're going to look at as the next step for you.
And the interview, don't think of it like an interview. It's very much a chat to see who you are, where you are in your progression in your journey, and then how access will fit in and around that. So what responsibilities have you got outside of college? What work responsibilities, what family and life responsibilities have you got? And what kind of time period you're hoping to study, where and when. Those are the kind of things that make a big difference to a student by the end or when they start the course. And we're being able to forward plan and use our expertise and your own knowledge of your own life and the pitfalls and struggles that you may have over the period of studying is invaluable in setting you up in a journey for the rest of it.
Please don't think that we're just being nosy and that we're sitting trying to find out your whole life history. A bit of that is true. We want to make sure that we find you the right fit, and please be honest with us. We've had people who haven't declared additional learning need issues that they have at the time, just in case we don't let them in. It's not like that at all. We're trying to get everything sorted for you before you start with us in September.
A couple of questions that a few students want the answers to at this stage. I'm going to fire them at you, Ellie, and I'm going to test to see if you know the answers. Okay.
I'm scared now.
So first one, what campuses or where can I study access?
You can study access in Newcastle, Downpatrick, Ards, Bangor and Lisburn. That's the access, and that happens for the full time during the day. If you're looking for the evening for access, that happens in Bangor, Lisburn and Downpatrick.
Good job.
Scared in case I forgot one.
I'm here to keep you right. Next question. What's the difference between full-time and part-time? Is it a different qualification? Is it a lesser qualification?
Full-time and part-time access lead to exactly the same endpoint. It's exactly the same qualification. The difference is on the number of hours contact you have with the staff. Full-time education isn't actually what people recognise as full-time. It's certainly not like a full-time work hours. Full-time is 15 hours a week. And for our award students, that's the first year people, that's spread over 4 days on the campus. For our nighttime evening people, it's 9 hours, and that's spread over 2 nights a week, and it's 2 nights a week for 2 years. For the diploma people, that changes slightly in the second year when the number of days you're on campus depends on the modules you choose for that final year, and the modules are connected to your career progress. But apart from that, everybody ends up with an access diploma in foundation studies, social and biological sciences.
There's one other big difference that's different between full-time and part-time. And that's around
the
money.
pound sign.
Yes, indeed.
The money set. Sorry, full-time courses are free. There's also funding that you can get for things like childcare and for keeping you while you're with us. There's a very strange thing that happens in FE around part-time courses because they're going to cost you money. This year, the fees are yet to be set, but we're reckoning it's going to be at around 550 when you add in your registration fees with Queen's, who are validating body. There are FE grants to help you towards that fee for part-time. Unfortunately, it won't cover the whole of the fee. If you can't get the FE grant towards your fees, you can pay it in installments. There is a process that happens with our finance people.
Perfect.
Always forgetting the money bit.
Well, it usually comes at a separate stage, so you are forgiven. Along with questions about money that the students can avail of, comes questions around things like childcare as well. Do you want to speak a bit about that?
Childcare is always a huge issue for our students. We understand that people come to us as parents with those responsibilities for childcare that comes with that. If you're fortunate enough to live near our Newcastle campus, we're very proud of our new creche, which is situated within the building itself, and which any student who is being taught on the Newcastle campus can avail of while they're in the building. For everyone else, childcare, there is money for childcare from the FE grant, or for those who can't avail of that, from our hardship fund, if you meet all the criteria for that too. The vast majority of our students do, and have their childcare organised for when they're in college, that their children will be in childcare. I have to say also that for those of you whose children are in school, we don't generally start every day until 9:30 to make sure that you can do that school run without thinking, I have to get somebody to organise that bit too. And most of our days are ending by 3 o'clock, so you can be there as well on the other end of that school day.
Perfect. And I'll put up an email address on screen here. If you have any further questions about student finance, we have a full student finance team within the college to contact ahead of time if you have questions specifically about finance related to your study going forward. Okay. Do you want to flip the script? Do you want to ask me some questions then, Ellie? Feels like you've been on the spot.
On the receiving end. So tell us what the difference is between Access and Restart.
Okay. So in terms of education, Access is what would be known as a level 3 course. Other level 3 courses you may recognise would be things like A-levels, things like BTECs that are level 3, MVQs level 3. There are others, but those are the ones that most people will recognise. Restart is a level 2 qualification, and something along the lines of GCSE or BTEC level 2. I think I said that right. So it is more, some might see it more as an introductory course, but it's an introductory course for a number of reasons. You may have been out of education for quite a long time and are a bit maybe wary of stepping straight into A-level type study. The Restart course is for you. That's the course for you. You will build skills in numeracy, literacy, social science, how to study and prepare better as a student going forward, and also some personal development and IT skills. It is a course that concentrates on getting you to improve both in terms of ability and confidence as a student as you progress, so that no matter what your next step is, you'll be in a much better place in terms of skills and confidence to do that. It is not a precursor to Access necessarily, although many students do use it with that path, but it should open up a lot of possibilities for students who are willing and hoping to study in other areas of the college, sport, business, art, whatever it is. We will investigate that along with our careers team when you're a student of the college with us in Restart. Restart is free as well, and it runs 2 days a week, or we're hoping to run it nights this year if we get enough interest. It is something we would definitely like to do for those still in employment and who would still like to keep working and start on this journey for themselves to either career change or do something different for themselves. We can talk to you about what days, etc., depending on which campuses. but it does run on more campuses and in more places than Access does. You can include some of our other campus buildings in Ballynahinch and Hollywood, but we have courses running right throughout our region in community centres up and down the region. So check in with us no matter where you are, and we'll point you in the right direction of a community partner who we'd be more than happy to pass you to if you would be more comfortable studying there. I will say in addition that Restart is not a punishment for not scoring or not being on Access. It's very much about identifying a path for you that will end in a positive result. There's a lot of expertise and a lot of time and energy went into making sure that the students that come to us, if they give us a destination and we look at their circumstances and what they've done previously, that by the end of the process, that is where they end up. It is not a case that we are looking just to fill courses. We are looking to tailor education depending on people and what circumstances and what they need. And many students have done both. Just going straight into Access or going Restart Access or Restart in the further education course in the college and come out in exactly the same place. So when we have that conversation stroke interview with you, just be aware that any conversations or any advice that we're going to give you is based on the fact that it's about success and changing the outcomes for you longer term than just the short term.
So, Chris, tell us what the first year in Access looks like. What subjects do you study? And how long will it take me? And how much work is going to be involved?
Okay, so Elliot talked about the idea that it's a full-time course. And while the hours that you're in contact might not be full-time, the work sometimes gets to that level, I think would be fair to say. Every student, regardless if you study full-time or part-time, will do a number of common modules. Ours is a social and biological science course and qualification. So we like to give students a well-rounded mix of skills, especially in the first year before they specialise going into their second year. So each student will do one module in science, which will be a biology module, where you will look at, how biology works in nature, the structure of the cell, and then some human anatomy. They will also do a social science subject, either sociology or psychology, looking at how your brain works, how society works, and also how you prepare and structure writing and argument at a level that will help you progress on to university or higher education. Supporting those, you do a level 3 module in what's known as study skills, which looks at skills in critiquing, presentation, group discussion, writing personal statements, reflecting on your own progress over the course of the qualification, and looking and building some of the other supporting skills that are important in your future success in your other subjects. It is very much a subject that underpins the entire qualification as you go along. And in addition, you get to do a maths qualification, which is a maths GCSE equivalent qualification called NICATS. If you already have your maths qualification, it serves to act as a refresher for people going and progressing on so that they are recently numerate. Not just numerate from 10 years ago, but recently numerate, especially if you're progressing on to careers in nursing, midwifery, science, psychology even, where mathematics and numeracy skills will be used and needed going forward in that place.
Right. Yes.
In addition, I should say, if you're a full-time student, you get the chance to do GCSE maths and English as part of the course as well. And they're built into that same, or trying to be built in that same structure of that 9:30 to 3 o'clock structure, so that you can achieve those qualifications as you're studying Access and get that golden ticket even for employment, as Ellie would sometimes call it, of their GCSEs and some level 3 qualifications after the first year. It will automatically, or just by the end of the first year, you will have improved your employment prospects significantly from even 1 year of Access, even without the 2 years of the course.
So what happens in second year then? How do you choose your modules?
We are not a course that makes people pick their modules at the start, because often what people's aspirations are at the start of the first year morph and change as they progress through the course. So people that were very strongly going to be definitely one thing, as they study things at level 3, people find that studying things at level 3 changes their perceptions of what that qualification or that subject can be about, and therefore their career aspirations change. So as we come to the end of the first year, we start to have a conversation about what pathway or what your goal is and see whether it's changed from what it was at the start. It's one of the things that's built into the study skills module where we look to see how that influences. We look at those all together as a group and we start to put together what would be pathways, so subjects that are relevant to your course of study in the future. If I use nursing, for example, nursing will have some element of biology, it'll have some element of psychology, and often it'll have some element of chemistry somewhere in that degree. So your 3 subjects may be biology, chemistry, and psychology. If you're wanting to study social work, for instance, you'd probably not need chemistry. You'll want to concentrate more on your social sciences. So you'll do more social science, whether that be psychology, and then there are applied modules in both sociology and psychology where you can develop and further study those skills within that. That'll hopefully lead to more knowledge, giving you a good head start on your degree pathway. These pathways exist for all avenues, and we can give you some idea if and when we speak to you at interview stage about what your likely destinations and pathways are going to be and what the modules are that support those and underpin those. Most modules have a well-trodden path by many students, and therefore we can use both our expertise and the expertise of those that have went before to help guide you. You're never alone.
I think one of the things that we should do now are just try and dispel some of those myths that people have when they come in. The first one I'm going to use is, you're not too old for this. We have people, which is why Chris is laughing, we have people who come and sit in front of us and they're telling us that they're in their late 20s and are they too old? And when you get to my stage in life, that really is a hilarious thing to hear a 28-year-old say to you. We have people on this course, as long as you've been out of full-time education for 2 years, 2 full years, that's our entry point. As to the exit point or how old it is that you when we say that you can't come on the course, there simply isn't one. We are still looking at education for education's sake, and everybody can get something from the Access course. And certainly we're not going to look at you and say, born in 1970, we're not looking at you. That's not how this works. So that's the first myth that we're going to dispel. You're not too old.
I'll pop in there and say, many of the teaching team, this is their second career as well. A lot of us had started off doing something else, had good qualifications in something else, and then ended up here. We did a similar journey to the one that many of you are going to take. And so there's good empathic relationships there already built, because I've basically done what many of you are trying to do, and many of the team feel exactly the same. So I often say, you as a student coming on to us, you're not really just my student, you're a future peer. You're somebody that's going to be probably doing what I'm doing, some of you, or in similar situations in social work and nursing and everything else that you're going to do. So again, it's a path well trodden by other people.
Indeed, a number of our team actually did sit where you're sitting right now, listening to folk like me and Chris, or probably me and Chris at the time, spouting, and they're now actual teachers on our course. So when you're complaining about your workload or worrying about whether you can do that, they literally can look you in the eye and go, yes, you can. I know you can because I've been there. Mm-hmm. The next myth that we're going to dispel is, I'm not sure that my brain's up to this. I might be a bit stupid. There's very little that I ban, not that type of teacher nor leader. But calling yourself stupid is one of them. People assume that other people get to go to university and other people get good grades, and it wasn't them. And we actually don't care what you were like at school. What we're interested in is what you're like now, what your commitment's like, and what you're willing to give up. Any comments on that one, Chris?
Yes, I've just given out a lot of scores, and a lot of people are, let's say, quite emotional about the fact of what they now achieve compared to what they once did. Then even when they started the course, they didn't even think this would ever be a conversation or a problem they would ever have. They were just hoping to get through. And in many students, because they devote a lot of time and energy into it, and they make a very serious commitment and choice to doing something like an Access course, because it is not just a hobby course, it is something that people do to make significant change in their life. I often say, you make it start getting used to this person that's sitting there, because this is only the start of your journey, and these are the kind of things that you're capable of. And often, and I find this myself, you often don't know what you're capable of until you devote yourself to it and pass yourself over to it. So let those things happen because of your actions that start now, and not based on what happened to you previously.
Based on a lot of the interviews that I've done over the large number of years that I've been in Access, one of the things that always comes out in interview is when you mention maths, people say they hate it, they can't do it, they've never been able to do it. How do you dispel that myth with people?
I would say that's my favourite type of student, personally. There's nothing I like better as a teacher, and I would say this probably for just about every subject that somebody teaches. As somebody who's deeply passionate about my subject, I can't wait to show people what's exciting and what's interesting about that. And often students, after having sat in one of my classes, and many of the other teachers that we have within the team, because it's a very, very talented teaching team that we have that specialise in adult education, is a lot of them just say, can I just tell you that I quite enjoyed that? And my response is usually, don't tell anybody. It'll be mine and your secret, because nobody else will understand, just like you wouldn't have understood until you're in there. Any subject that you're having fear about, let the expertise of the teaching team and the enthusiasm of the teaching team help you and lead you along the way. And I can't promise you that everybody will love every aspect of every subject, but you'll discover things about every subject that you didn't even know were things about it. So I encourage you to delve headlong into your learning that way. I've got a myth for you. Something like, I have no qualifications, I couldn't possibly do this. It is quite common, as you quite rightly know, Ellie, that our best students had no qualifications. Circumstances often dictated whether there was no qualifications. Attitude, being a young person, you don't quite all have it figured out at that stage. I know I certainly did not. It's, as Ellie said before, it's about what you're going to do from here on in. And actually, for many students, that path of learning and progressing never stops. Many students who leave us and go to university and go into employment keep on this journey, and they just don't know when to stop, actually, as it goes.
Yeah.
They keep on learning and progressing. They end up at the head of many of their fields because that's the journey that they put themselves on by sending in that application in Access course.
Chris and I are really, really privileged to do this job, and I know that sounds really corny and we're from an American soap opera or whatever, but we sit and watch people come into us quite literally shaking, having to bring somebody else with them because they're too terrified to talk to us. And we watch people go away from us in that process. Changed people, even how they walk and stand and think about themselves, because that's part of our job. But then they come back to us from uni and go, here, wait I tell you, I'm as good as everybody else in my class. In fact, a number of the times they're better. We can count firsts from our students at degree level. Oh, so many of them. And onwards, as Chris says, and into that, going on and doing masters and everything else. You're only limited by how far that you think that you can go. That's your limit. If you think that you can't, you won't. But if you just go with it and just give it a go and see how far it takes you, and how much you're going to find that this isn't like school, because that's the other one. This isn't like school. If you sit in our classrooms and you don't ask us questions and you don't join in the discussion, or you don't tell us that you're not understanding something, you're going to miss part of the experience. We expect to be questioned. We expect to have discussions go on outside the classroom, down the corridor and into the coffee room when you're still talking about whether Milgram's experiment in psychology, more to come, was it ethical? What were they thinking? And then people look around them and go, look at us talking about psychology over coffee. That sort of thing is what happens inside our classroom because of how passionate we are about our subjects, as Chris said. You may even talk about getting maths problems right, I promise you will grow me.
Yeah. So that's our brief introduction to Access. I look forward to speaking to each of you individually, as many of the team do, and answering some of the maybe particular concerns that you may have, or some of the more pointed things that you would like to ask. Overcoming this together is very, as Ellie says, one of the great privileges of doing this work in this job, and nothing gives greater joy than seeing somebody overcome some difficulty and then experiencing success where they maybe sometimes didn't believe it themselves.
I have to say, this is one of our favourite times of the year. Sometimes you can get bogged down in the teaching process, and just this time of the year where we're meeting new people with new dreams and new goals for themselves is one of the most exciting times in our teaching year. And we hope that when you come and meet us, that you'll find that the people that you see sitting on the screen are the same in real life.
So thanks very much, everybody, for taking the time to watch us and listen to myself and Ellie ramble. I look forward to arranging you a time to see you, and we'll talk to you all again soon. That's bye from me.
And bye from me.